Good morning, my friends. Today I'm really excited to be sharing with you a couple of my favorite all-time recipes that I have found so far. These are recipes that I absolutely love. I use them all the time, and so I'm hoping that you will love them as well. So let's strap on our aprons and get started. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven, and I preheated mine to 435, and then I am baking some bacon, and I like to bake my bacon actually on a cookie sheet with this little silicone liner, and the reason for that is just because it's one less thing that I have to focus on while I'm making a big breakfast. So this is one of my favorite breakfasts to make. We have it probably almost once a week, especially on the first day my husband gets off work. It's kind of our specialty that we usually have, but it's also very easy. So for ingredients, you're just going to need milk, flour, salt, honey, eggs, and cinnamon. And the cinnamon is optional. And then you're going to need some butter. And the first thing you're going to do with these Dutch babies is you're going to put butter in your skillets, which this recipe takes 2 skillets, and you're going to pop that in the oven as your oven heats up. Now we're going to need 1 cup of flour, which, as you can see here, I have my little helper as always. About 1/2 teaspoon of salt, cinnamon, which is optional. You can also add vanilla, but that's also optional. A cup of milk, and last but not least, the recipe calls for 4 eggs, but if I have extra, I'll sometimes even do more, and so today I did 6. And then just a drizzle of honey. This is usually around 2 tablespoons, but as you can see, I don't really measure any of this stuff. I usually just kind of dump it in, and it always turns out really good, which is one of the reasons why I love this recipe. After that, you're just going to want to beat this up, and so it's all pretty well blended. I'll also sometimes use a little hand mixer, but today I'm just using a fork. And usually around this time, the bacon is cooking in the oven still, and the butter should be hot in your pans. That's why, as much as I don't like when recipes tell me what to do, there actually is a reason for why you want to do this in this exact order. You know your butter is hot enough when it starts to get little bubbles in it, and it almost looks like it's boiling a little bit. And so that is the time when you can evenly add the batter between the 2 skillets. I like to use cast iron because there's no fear of breaking them when you dump the batter in, which I've broken glass cookingware before trying to use that, so I don't recommend it. This electric tea kettle has been about the most handy gadget I've ever gotten because it makes boiling eggs so much faster. So I heat up my water in that, and it cuts down the time in like half when I make boiled eggs, which is fantastic. And because I'm pregnant, so I'm trying to get in a ton of protein every day, this is a great way to do it, and this is a good breakfast that provides a ton of protein very quickly to my day, which is fantastic. Alright, so the bacon is still cooking in the oven. It will take the longest typically. The eggs are now boiling. The Dutch babies are cooking, and so in the meantime, I have my little daughter setting the table, and then I'm getting started to cut up some fruit for these Dutch babies. But the fantastic thing about this recipe is that you can serve it with fruit. I know people serve it with powdered sugar, with whipped cream, with strawberries, with jam. You can just serve it with syrup or yogurt. It's so versatile, and so you can make it really extravagant, or you can also keep it very simple and just eat it like how it is when it comes out of the oven. And so I usually like to add whatever fruits we have laying around the house, but sometimes we'll just have them with some syrup or jam on them if we're in a hurry, and you get a really delicious protein-packed breakfast with a very small amount of work, which is one of the reasons why I really love this recipe. Another reason why I love making these Dutch babies, besides the fact that they're very healthy, is that I can make up the batter really quick, throw it in the oven, and then do my Bible or start a load of laundry or kind of clean up the kitchen and do dishes while it cooks. And sometimes I won't do so many things along with it. We'll just have the Dutch babies, and it keeps us full for a long time, which is great. Shortly after my husband and I got married, I was struggling to peel boiled eggs one day, And my husband showed me this little trick, and I had never seen someone peel a boiled egg like this before, but he would just take the egg, split it in half with a knife, and then actually scoop the egg out. And since learning that, I have applied this to boiled eggs, and it is so much easier, especially because we use super fresh eggs here from my mom's chickens. And so it can be super frustrating spending half your morning trying to get your eggs peeled and then having them look terrible. So if you do not know this tip, as I did not know this tip, I hope it helps you, because it has helped me a lot, and we actually have boiled eggs a lot more because of it. This was a delicious breakfast, and it held us over for a very, very long time, and it was just fabulous. And yet there are ramifications to having this type of a breakfast, and cleaning up the kitchen is one of them. And so after this, let's dive into a delicious dinner recipe that I'm super excited to share with you. Alright, so at the moment it is about 2 hours before dinner, and for this next recipe, which is an artisan, or is it artisan or artesian? Now I'm struggling because I've always said it's artesian, but the other day I think I heard it was actually called artisan bread. But anyway, it is a 5-ingredient recipe, which I love. The simpler, the better. For this artisan bread, you need flour, yeast, salt, honey, and water. That is the entire recipe. Isn't that amazing? And so you're just going to start out by adding about 2 tablespoons of honey to a bowl, along with 2 teaspoons of yeast. And then you're going to add 1.5 cups of warm water. I don't ever use a thermometer. I usually just judge it by, I want it to be really warm, but I don't want it to be hot and kill the yeast. So also, I always add the sweetener directly to the yeast and the water, because the sweetener helps the yeast to activate. But I don't add the salt until I add the flour, because it seems like the salt almost kind of does the opposite in my opinion. And then I'll just wait a couple minutes and make sure that the yeast is activating, which you'll just notice there's a lot of bubbles coming up if it is. And then you can add your 3 cups of flour. And this is going to be a very sticky dough, and that is okay. The reason why I really like this recipe is because there is no kneading involved. And so you just stir the dough until everything is well blended. And then I like to place it actually by our stove, our wood stove that's very warm. And it seems to help it rise a little bit better. And I'll just let it rise up until about half an hour or 45 minutes before we're going to eat dinner. And so it depends. Sometimes it only rises for about 45 minutes. Other times, like today, I think it rose for an hour and 15 minutes. And the longer, of course, it rises, the more fluffy your bread is. But I've done it before, like half an hour to 45 minutes, and it turned out just fine. And that is one of the reasons why I love this artisan or artisan bread. Now I really need to figure out if that's the right word. So while the bread rises, I'm going to put some chicken breasts in the oven for an Asian chicken salad. And this is by far one of the best salads I've ever had. My mom makes this all the time, and it is amazing. And so just cook up the chicken breasts however you would like. Or really, if you're a vegetarian, you don't even have to have the chicken breasts. But I just put salt and pepper and olive oil on them, put them in the oven. And then for the actual salad, you are going to need chicken, cabbage, romaine, you can use red cabbage or Napa cabbage, carrots, cilantro, mandarin oranges, and then sesame seeds and almond slices are optional. So you can use those as well. I didn't end up using them because I didn't have them, and I really couldn't tell the difference, but they are really pretty to add. Of course, once again, I never measure. I just kind of dump all this stuff in a bowl, and I made a pretty big amount, and this lasted my husband and I all of dinner and then a lunch the next day, which was really nice to have. Okay, you guys, as delicious as this mixture is of salad, what makes this salad so incredibly amazing is the sauce, the homemade dressing. And so really quick, what we're going to need is garlic, honey, olive oil, sesame seed oil, ginger, soy sauce, and rice vinegar. And so to start out, you add 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of sesame seed oil, 1/2 cup olive oil or avocado oil or any kind of neutral oil, 2 teaspoons sesame seeds, which I didn't actually add, 2 garlic cloves, or I just added about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, and 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. Yes, that is my daughter's hand in the honey. I guess it's just part of cooking with kids. Okay, by this time it's been about an hour and the bread has risen quite well, as you can see. And so now I'm just flouring the surface of a cookie sheet, or else you can actually use even cornmeal, and putting the bread down on it. The one thing that I did differently this time is that I had a lot of flour in the bowl so that the dough wouldn't stick so much. But the only thing was then there was flour on the face of the bread loaf, which was a little disappointing. Also, another funny thing about this dough is when you pull it out of the bowl, don't press it down, don't knead it down or anything. You want to leave all those air bubbles in it and then put it directly onto whatever it is that you're baking it on, score the top, or just cut a little design into it, and then you can either let it rise again, which is the preferred method, or if you're running out of time, you can throw it directly into your oven and it will leave really nice air bubbles and just be really delicious in the texture. You're going to want to bake your bread at about 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, but keep an eye on it because you don't want it to get overcooked. Also, if you like bread that has a really chewy crust on the outside, then I put a pan of water in the bottom of my stove and leave it in the entire time I cook the bread, and it steams up the inside of your stove and actually makes you get a really crisp crust, which is delicious. Alright, so then all you have to do is add the salad dressing that you made to your salad, add the chicken to your salad all chopped up, and you have the most delicious dinner. This was so good, and this is my husband's favorite bread, which is saying a lot because he's not a big bread person. So I hope you enjoyed these recipes, and I hope that maybe you can add them to your repertoire as well. And I will see you hopefully next Saturday in my next video. So thank you for joining me with this Cook With Me. Bye-bye.